This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on November the 17th, 2023, and we are celebrating. Yes, folks, we are celebrating. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite teen comedies. I would have been 11 years old the year this came out. I didn't see it at that time. Not sure what I would have thought of it, thought of Rebecca De Mornay when it came out, but hey, 11 years old. We are celebrating, of course, the 40th anniversary of Risky Business, which I have here on Blu-ray. I love this movie. I love teen comedies, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Risky Business, 16 Candles, Valley Girl, uh, you know, all of those kind of movies, and I love that genre. And I have my third guest from Risky Business on the show today. Somebody who, like me, probably wondering what is up with all these girls. I give you the absolutely awesome Harry Teinowitz. How do you do, Harry?
Greg, I am doing quite wonderful. I appreciate you having me on,
Mm-hmm.
and I am looking forward to taking a step back in my memory. I remember the girls.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Kovac from Splat from the Past recommended you strongly.
He was probably drinking at the time.
Well, he texts me a lot on Facebook Messenger, throwing ideas back and forth for guests, and I had he had always goes after the anniversaries, and I had mentioned, my favorite film of 1983 was Risky Business, but I've had Sarah Partridge on here, and I've had Francine Locke, but I haven't had anybody fresh this year from it, and he had mentioned you, and I was like, sure, we could do that. And anyway, before we get into Risky Business and Up the Academy and all these cool things that you've done, I would like to get a little bit of your background and what got you into the business.
I was born in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was went to a high school that was known as a big theater high school, New Trier East. Now they've dropped the East now because of several reasons, but they've also dropped a mascot. We were the Indians. Now we're the Trevians because the school was named for the people from Trier, Germany, and which always gave me a complex, a Jewish guy going to a German named school. But I did theater in high school, and New Trier was known to have this ridiculous list of graduates: Charlton Heston and Bruce Dern and Anne Margaret. And I went to school with Adam Baldwin from my bodyguard, the great Virginia Madsen, who's in Sideways, Oscar nominated role for Virginia Madsen. Gina's awesome. And I just always loved theater. I wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid. Did a ton of plays, mostly in Chicago. And they were auditioning for Risky Business.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was I was in a movie beforehand, which I think you forgot. Oh, we're going to play Cats. Morton, come down here.
Oh, this is my kitty Skittles. He said,
Great.
"Oh, my alarm didn't go off. I didn't get on here in time."
Skittles is a way cool cat, and I love the name.
Yeah, he's a rescue. He's my buddy.
Excellent. By the way, I'm a rescue, and
Yeah.
my wife got me just days in advance. But I always wanted to be a performer, and at a certain point, I went from actors that weren't getting constant jobs. They were going to work in other fields, which is cool. But stand up called my name, and I did stand up for 7 years. Worked all over the country. Did a couple of national TV spots, several other TV spots, and I enjoyed doing stand up. It was a lot of traveling, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But I auditioned for and got a part in Up the Academy. Mad Magazine presents Up the Academy, and off of that, Tony Bill auditioned me, and I don't know if it was Tony Bill or Robert Downey Sr. who directed the film. One of them had recommended me to Andrew Davis, who directed, of course, Risky Business.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in, I read for a part, and I actually was given a much bigger role. Then I got a call. I'm all set to do this major part in a major movie with this, hot young actor. And I got a call. I'm starting Monday. I got a call on Friday saying, "Hey, Curtis Armstrong got a theater release." I didn't know what theater release meant. I'm a teenager. I don't know what theater release means. I thought it meant maybe he got lucky in the back of a movie. I don't know what it meant. And it means he got out of a part he was doing in a play that was on Broadway or off Broadway. And so I was originally going to be Curtis Armstrong's role. That sometimes you just got to say what the.
Yep.
And instead, they gave me a part that was 3 lines in the party scene. And I was on set for 8 days to get those 3 lines recorded, to get those 3 lines done. It was a drag, man. I had to share a dressing room with the 3 guys in the band and the 8 or 12 young ladies that were in the party scene. The whores! Man, they do it. Sex for money. Man, I am so against that now. Just terrible. So that's how I got into it, and that's what life was like for me. 8 days, they ended up switching around lines and stuff like that, but I was there 8 days until they kept thinking, okay, we're gonna film you tomorrow, come back tomorrow. And I'm like bugging the director every day, going, Andy. He goes, Harry, I know you want to film your scene because I'm making a movie here. We have to do this we have to do it until we get it right, and we'll get to you. Please promise. I promise you, we'll get to you. Okay. So I was there for 8 days, and I actually started to write a movie while I was there, because I'm sitting around a movie set, and I'm like, come on, I got to be productive with my time. I was off book, as actors say, and wasn't that large a part, so I was off book within minutes of getting the role, the reduced role, and I got so mad. I knew the movie was going to be special. Sitting there watching them film all the other scenes, it was extremely well written, extremely well directed. The cinematographer, seemed like he knew what he was doing, and the key grips were solid. That was the key to the Risky Business. The key grips were key. But I knew it was going to be good, and I was upset that I didn't get to keep this bigger role. Who wouldn't be? And as a result, I've never seen the movie.
You've never seen Risky Business?
Never seen it.
Ah.
Dude, I was going to be one of the lead roles, and it could have changed
You know
everything.
what? I don't blame you for reacting that way, though. I love the movie, but I get you because I put money into a movie a few years back, and it was through an Indiegogo. It had a lot of really well-known prominent horror film stars in it, and I got treated like shit, and I hadn't even met the people. So I kind of get you, and when I got the perks were fulfilled and I got the DVD in the mail, I backed over it with my car. So, you
I
know,
respect you more. You know,
well,
you
yeah,
you've seen The Big Chill, right?
yes, I have.
Great movie, and except my daughter is a Michigan State student right now.
Mm,
She graduated from there in June, and she's going to get her master's this upcoming June. So we're not big Michigan fans, and as you know, it's all Wolverines. They all went to Michigan. Well, when they filmed the movie, and you probably know this, uh, they used the actor in a ton of scenes who died, and then by the time the movie came out, they just cut out all those scenes, and they thought it was a better idea to just talk about this guy and not show him in any scenes. And the guy, of course, was Kevin Costner.
yeah.
So I used to always think, well, I bet Kevin Costner has never seen The Big Chill. But I mean, I should get over it at this point. It just, and by the way, here's why I still haven't seen it is it was down to me and one other guy for the role of Booger in
Hmm.
Revenge of the Nerds. And once again, Curtis Armstrong shows
Yeah.
up. And I have no problem with him. I mean, he seems like a good guy. He's a very good actor. At least he better be a good actor, because if he's a bad actor and he's getting parts over me, then I suck. But Curtis Armstrong took two roles from me, but he
Hmm.
didn't take them from me. He just wanted them for himself. I have no
Hmm.
problem with him. I just, you know, I love horse racing, and sometimes you're using a local jockey, and then a big jockey becomes a nationally known rider becomes available. So instead of going to the Kentucky Derby with the guy that's been riding him his whole life, you switch to this new rider.
Hmm.
And I felt like that. I felt like a good jockey who got taken off just because this other guy is you know doing a play and Broadway. But I'll get over it probably by the time I'm 90.
I understand how you feel. Um, Before we dive into this deeper, you mentioned doing stand up. Who are your inspirations for stand up? What comedians did you look up to?
Well, I mean, there's two, and I bet you can guess the two I'm gonna say.
George Carlin, Richard Pryor?
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. You know, I was exposed to a ton of stand up. I would do my homework in front of Johnny Carson every night, and then David Letterman. I'd watch him all the time, and you'd see a lot of stand-ups. Then came when I started doing comedy. There's a TV show every night. Some guy or girl in front of a brick wall doing stand-up, and I did two evening at the Improvs, and a couple other local shows, a couple other like shows that were seen nationally, and it was overexposed. And the biggest problem was in the clubs, the owners were giving away tickets, they were papering the house. So people got used to the idea that they never had to pay for tickets, they would always just get them free. And there were people that showed up that wanted to hear stand-up comedy live, instant reaction. How am I doing? Do these people get it? Do they know how I worked on that little joke? How much time I spent on it. um and then other stuff was just off the cuff. But I mean, you would have an element in every crowd that was not there to see stand-ups, they were there to get liquored up. And Friday night were the worst crowds because they've been working all week, and they should be in a bar not doing stand-up. Saturday nights were the best crowds because people that had worked all week, that they don't have to work on Saturday, and now they get to come downtown and see you at the Improv, or Zanies, which is the stand-up club in America. And I know the Improv just got real mad at me, but Catch a Rising Star just got mad at me. But Zanies, Chicago institution, and they're in Nashville as well, and a couple other places. So I was doing stand up, and I thought Richard Pryor was insane. And I thought that, he would tell jokes, about George Carlin was brilliant comic, and he would perceive other things. Richard Pryor was telling jokes about himself, and I loved that. And he was so freaking honest. And again, that's so cool to me. And it's like if a girl breaks up with you and you're in your 20s, that sucks. But if you're a comedian in your 20s, that's new material. And I mean, Richard Pryor, I forgot which movie it is, but he does a whole hunk of when he was freebasing and set himself on fire, and
Yeah.
talking to the monkey, and Jim Brown comes by and tells him he's got to get out of his house. He can't keep living this way. And he turned to his pipe and he just said, "Hey, you and me, we're hanging out today." So I always love talking about his mom's funeral. And he said that it was freezing out, and they were in the car and they were waiting for the people to pull the cape off of the hole where the casket was going to go. And his dad turned to him and said, "Son, I loved your mother, but if it gets any colder out, bitch is going to have to bury herself." Oh my God, so I just thought he was great. And Rodney Dangerfield's a classic.
I love Rodney.
But last week I was very lucky. I got to see Seinfeld and Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan might be my favorite comic going today. Bill Burr is excellent.
Love Bill Burr. Yeah.
Right. There's a woman. Have you ever seen Kathleen Madigan?
No, I don't know her.
Oh, she's brilliantly funny. If you can get her on your podcast, you can ask one question and she'll do 15 minutes of brilliant humor. And it's nothing written, it's off the top of her head. But if you ever have a chance to see Kathleen Madigan, the only problem with her is she's a St. Louis Cardinals fan. And, where I live, we don't like St. Louis Cardinals. Maybe it's the stench. But, straight Chicago ticket all the way. I loved comedy clubs. It was great. You could do stuff you've been working on for, a year, or you could do stuff that you wrote that day. And you get an instant reaction, whether you're doing stand-up, the beginning, you're working a lot of bars, towns that would not have a comedy club, they'd have a comedy night in the big bar in the town. And sometimes half the bar would still be drinking and half the bar would be there for the comedy show. But it was a lot of fun. And then I'll tell you, the advent of the comedy club waitress, what a good idea that was. They're wonderful people. And I was just fascinated by them, and I thought, it's like when you do a club, first time I went to Iowa City, and I talked to these waitresses, I'm like, man, two of them were really cool. Another one was gorgeous. I'll never see him again. And then a year later, you're back there in the same club and they remember you. And it makes things easier at night. And there were a lot, I didn't have a girlfriend. If I had a girlfriend, it was different. But when I didn't have a girlfriend and you're a comic on the road, if you're a guy and you have a one-nighter, high fives. If you're a girl and you have a one-nighter, you're a slut. How could you do that? You're just awful. So, women think like men think like women. And a lot of cocktail waitresses, quality women, bright, beautiful, fantastic women, they would approach me because they knew my greatest quality was I was leaving town. And they would sleep with me because they thought I was somebody. This guy's really funny stand-up, and he's been in a couple movies, and he's going to get bigger and bigger. And best thing about him is he's going home Sunday morning, or he's leaving Monday morning. So I can get crazy with him the night before he leaves. And sometimes they would risk it. They'd go 2 nights before I'd leave. But I can't tell you the amount of quality women that I got to be intimate with. just because of that situation. And I'm not bragging. Many a night I went down in flames, not Calgary flames, but just down in proverbial flames. And I've always liked waitresses. I've always liked, bartenders, both male and female, um, different reasons. But, good bartender is an important thing in your life. And I would go back to, there's 600 bars in Chicago, and I'd go back to the same five, in my earlier and more vulnerable days. Haven't had a beverage in 12 and a half years.
Yeah. I like bartenders. I used to go clubbing with my friends here, and I know there was a shooter girl that I really liked at one of them, and
Did you talk to her?
oh yeah. Yeah, actually, I still talk to her occasionally. She's married now, but I have her on social media, and I've known her for it's I said so since 2005, I think I met her, or
Whoa,
06 or something
that's
like
a
that.
long relationship.
Yeah, she was one of the friendly ones that would talk to you and whatnot, and my friends and I, we weren't drinkers, Most of the times, if you weren't drinkers, they wouldn't come by and try to tell you shots. They'd ignore you. But she was a good talker. She knew what she was doing. She would always stop by and see us. So, um, last time I seen her in person. She's married now and whatnot, but
Hey,
she gave me a big hug and asked me how I was doing, and there you go.
James Bond never had a problem with married women. He got over it
Yeah,
real fast, and
he
he's the
did.
coolest guy ever. He might be fictional, but he's cool. But
Well,
I don't advocate, you know, trying it with a married woman. So I respect that, Greg. By the way, do you know that there was a guy in the Blackhawks who also played for the Islanders? His name was Greg Gilbert.
I've heard that. Yeah, wrong, Greg Gilbert, but because if I play hockey, then there's gonna have to have an ambulance because I'd end up injuring somebody.
Oh, you would injure that,
No, I'd end up injuring the players by accident.
but you wouldn't get injured.
Somehow, I would imagine it would somebody else getting injured because of my incompetence and inexperience. But let's say the same thing about dancing. Somebody would get injured. It wouldn't be me, but it would be because of me.
I think if I played hockey, I would get injured putting on the equipment. Just, those skates are so low to the ground.
Mhm.
You got to bend over really far to tie them.
Yep. That's why, I like to get slip-on boots or Velcro. Works so much better.
Yeah. Velcro skates, I like it.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll get Skittles to pull the Velcro for me. Um,
My cat is still working. He sleeps all day and he's nocturnal. I love it. So I'm up late every night, can't sleep, and Mr. Morton is hanging out with me.
Well, my cat sleeps all day, sleeps all night. But I mean, if I shake that treat bag, he's up.
Same thing with me. Go ahead and shake that Lucky Charms box.
Hmm.
I'm right
Yeah.
there. Green clovers, yellow moons, pink diamonds now.
You know what? I've often said, like I'm 51 years old. I've never had a girlfriend. And the people say, "Why not?" I said, "Because I got a cat. Cat's less headache.
All right,
Less
Greg.
headache. Plus,
Greg.
cats respond to shaking the treat bag. It doesn't work on women."
Well, it depends what you have in the treat bag. You pull something of greater and not all women are like this, but you pull something else out of there besides a greenie or a whisker lickens, and you're in business. but 51 and never had a girlfriend. So on the positive side, you've never been dumped. But on the negative side, I mean,
Oh,
don't
I've
you?
been rejected plenty.
Well, it's a numbers game, babe. No, I mean, I think you're a good dude and you're meant to meet someone, and you would be a very caring boyfriend slash husband. I don't want you to give up hope. You haven't given up hope, right?
Well, my right now my current celebrity crush, and I've had crush on this woman since 2007 when I first saw her in Superbad, and that is Emma Stone. And she's married now, so I guess she's off the market.
Otherwise, it could have happened for you. Even though
Actually,
you're in New Brunswick.
yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the
Yeah.
deal. This is how I look at this. This is a win for me. You see? Yeah, I'm not married to Emma Stone, but here's the deal. Her husband has to, deal with any bad habits he has that he knows of her. I don't know these things. And on the plus side, my relationship with her works great. Yeah, in December, we're on a date. I go to a theater and I see Poor Things. She's gonna come on there and she's gonna entertain me for 2 hours. Then I go home. I give her money to entertain me for 2 hours. And then she goes back to her husband, but I'm entertained for 2 hours and I'm like, this is a great relationship.
Well, first time, it's certainly a different way to look at it. I'm sure that she thinks of it as a relationship as well. First of all, great choice for a celebrity
Yeah, I
crush.
love it. I love Emma. I hope she gets her second Oscar with Poor Things because Emma is just so entertaining just to watch even being interviewed. She's not just easy on the eyes. She sounds like somebody who'd be fun to hang out with, you
Yeah.
know? Yep.
Um, she's great in The Help,
Mm-hmm.
just fantastic in that movie. And then Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell, Julianne Moore. What's the name of that movie?
Crazy stupid love.
Okay, it's a horrible title. I mean, you need a movie that tells you, what's going on, or the character name or something. The other thing I hate is when they have to mention the name of the movie and they like pause and then they tell you the name of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I guess that's because there's a Vanilla Sky. Just don't do that. It gets dumb and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
Emma Stone is wonderful choice. I'm just taking a couple seconds here to think about my relationship with Emma Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
speaking of the help, I gave her massive help. I allowed her not to be in a relationship with me and just see me periodically when she does a movie. And I just find out what theater I gotta be at. She appears on that screen,
she
and then
lets
I
you know
go home.
when she lets you know when she's going to be there, right? You don't have to wait. Oh,
Oh,
she'll be there at 7:10, or she'll be there at 9:35.
yeah. See? Plus, she doesn't have to end up sleeping with me, which the only reason Skittles does it is because I give him treats. But like I said, the treats thing doesn't seem to work on the ladies. I know because I've been in shopping aisles with those treats and toss those things down. They look at that. They look at me and they say, "Clean that up."
Okay, so maybe you need like a second gimmick instead of the tossing treats at the ladies. Um,
I'll tell
you
you
could,
one of my other crutches too is I really like Margot Robbie a lot too.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's pretty wild.
yeah, I do like Margot Robbie. Um, but
Some
here's the thing: when it comes to women, um,
Well, hold on. This is really a coincidence. Margot Robbie just texted me, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, when it comes to women, it's kind of like what I like about Emma and even Margot, but especially Emma, is that, I find Emma Stone attractive, but I mean, it's not hard to look at an attractive woman up on the internet and just look at pictures of her. Emma makes me enticed to watch her. That's the interesting thing about Emma Stone. And I'm like, that right there is what I want in a woman. Somebody that's more than just somebody to get physically intimate with, somebody I would actually enjoy spending my time with. And
Even though she could be anything. We only see her on talk shows.
hmm
We like that personality. Um, no, I think Emma Stone is a great choice,
hmm
and I hope that the two of you stay very happy in your relationship.
Well, she's married off, and I think her husband is lucky. I hope he's lucky anyway, because he knows the real her. But jokingly aside, when she does a movie, I'm there. I actually have a shirt here that has Emma Stone, images of Emma Stone front and back all over it, collaged all over it. And I got that online and ordered it. But yeah, I like Emma Stone and I like Margot Robbie, Margot just keeps getting nicer, she started out as Tanya Harding, then she moved up to Harley Quinn, who is still evil but more playful. Then she moved up to playing I'm trying to think of the girl from Sharon Tate. Then she moved up to Sharon Tate, and now she's playing Barbie. I'm like, gee, she just keeps getting nicer. Like, what's next? Who's nicer than Barbie? Maybe Mother Teresa? Is that her next role?
Well, that would be good. I mean, she's certainly, nicer than Barbie.
Yeah.
I would tell you that Barbie's, not like real, but I don't want to. You're in a relationship that would lead you to date Barbie next.
There you go.
Um, that's why I've stuck with Oprah all these years. You can't beat Oprah. Once you land on Oprah, you cannot beat her. Chicago and national legend.
There you
My
go.
my friend, I can't tell you his real name, but are you familiar with MrSkin.com?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I created that. And my friend who is Mr. Skin, in fact, I've been calling him Skin for the last 25 years. We met in a bar and I walked in there and guys were testing him on women. And he was telling them what movies she's been naked in. And and so I joined in because I happened to be at the bar because they were giving away tequila that night, or at least that's what people thought the way I was drinking it. But I had just started on the radio. I was on the radio here for 25 years. That's what I've been doing. And I said, hey, you've got to come on my radio show with me. It just started, but I said, you'd be a great guest. Because I don't want to go on the radio because I would lose my job working at the Mercantile Exchange. And I go, no, you don't understand. This is going to be your job. He goes, but my boss will hear me on there and he'll get upset and he'll fire me. It doesn't represent the company well. I go, look, you're not a pervert. You're not sneaking onto nude beaches and filming these women. His idea was to get scenes from all the movies that these girls have been naked in. And he went in a bunker with this computer genius for like, I don't know, a year, at least 6 months. And they came out with this website. And if any of you have never been there, it's MrSkin.com.
Actually, I got his book.
The Skin Encyclopedia.
Yep. I've got it here.
Okay, so there's two versions of it. One of them, the first page, he mentions me. He thanks me and Spike for helping him start. Spike is my old radio partner.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at any of his interviews or any of his speeches, he always talks about the two biggest nights of his life were meeting Harry Teinowitz and being on Howard Stern. And then he's
I
got,
know he's been on Howard Stern. I had no idea he was connected with you, so
yeah. But I mean, there was a local guy in town, Steve Dahl, very big radio personality here in Chicago and known in other parts of the world. And he heard him on my show. He was on with us about 8 times before he ever did Dahl's show. We were doing a sports radio show on the weekend, and then we could do whatever on the AM station. And on the FM station, we were doing midnight to 5.
hmm
And which is, we asked for that. And a lot of other people, they want to do morning drive or afternoon drive. We wanted to do overnight when not as many people are listening. So he said he'd come on, but he has to have a different name. And I said, well, how about like a pen name? So I said, how about you come on, you'll be Dr. Naked. And he goes, that's great. I'll be Dr. Naked. And then right before he was going to go on, he said, I don't want to be Dr. Naked. So the voice to my left said, how about Mr. Skin? He goes, I like that. So he became Mr. Skin, and Spike should get the credit. And I've watched him over the years. He's got like 30,000 women on there. He knows them all off the top of his head. So he's got relationships with all the women like you do. But I was going to say, I don't know Emma Stone's credits. Might be
Well,
worth a visit.
I know that when she did Poor Things, one of the things that came up, because I wanted to know about the movie, and apparently Emma Stone is nude all through it. But there was a link came up,
Hold on one second.
Mr. Skin.
Stream Poor Things. Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but apparently a link came up where Mr. Skin talks about Emma Stone showing one boob in The Favorite. And I'm like, I saw The Favorite. I remember that. Emma was and still is my favorite.
You name the movie.
Yeah.
Much better
Um,
title than Crazy Stupid Love. But if you haven't
mhm.
seen Crazy Stupid Love, you got to watch it. Ryan Gosling, that's where he became a movie star. And I think there are people, Greg, that are either great actors that are in movies or they're movie stars. Like my all-time favorite action hero, Charles Bronson.
Okay.
If you've seen the original Death Wish, that's about as good as you get. Okay.
I don't
That,
know. Death Wish was no Miss 45, and that's because Zoe Tamerlis Lund is a lot nicer to look at than Charles Bronson. She
yeah,
does
that's
the same
true.
thing. She does the same thing as Charles, but I'll tell you, I'm gonna be thinking about her a lot longer for different reasons.
I understand. And Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood was another guy that was so cool. Any movie that he did or Charles Bronson did, I would go see. Mr. Majestic. Someone shoots up his watermelons because he won't hire the people that they want him to hire to pick his crops. So they shoot up his watermelons, and then he becomes a vigilante. And there's about 2 other movies, 3 total, where he becomes a vigilante, and then he does Death Wish, which is all about a guy whose wife and daughter are raped and attacked. And in the first scene, and the wife dies, and the daughter is left a vegetable, and this guy becomes a vigilante. But so Charles Bronson wasn't acting, but he was a great movie star. And you could argue about Schwarzenegger, which one is he? But I'll tell you something, Ryan Gosling, I know that there are people in the world just think of him as gorgeous, and there are people who think of him as movie star. He is a movie star, but he's also a great actor. And there's some weird ass films he's done, like Lars and the Real Girl. Just what the hell who thought of that? How high was that guy when he thought of that? He was as high as Ben and Jerry were when they started these flavors. But I love Charles Bronson, and I think Ryan Gosling is one of the few guys like Tom Hanks. He's an actor and a movie star.
Tom Cruise, you could throw into that. Speaking of risky business,
Tom,
actually,
my
there's
time, my time with Tom Cruise was great,
mm-hmm,
so cool. I mentioned Up the Academy before. Mad
mm-hmm.
Magazine presents Up the Academy. Ralphie was in that with me. That's where I met Ralph Macchio. I believe he did another movie after that made him really successful, but I can't off the top of my head recall that.
Yeah, what
Um,
was that movie?
I don't know.
Something about a kid doing karate, but
Yeah, what was it called? I'll get it. It'll come to me. I'm dealing with short-term memory issues since my operation. But Ralphie filmed The Outsiders with
mm-hmm,
Tom Cruise right after Up the Academy. And then when I told him I got this part, I was really excited for this part I had, the Curtis Armstrong role.
mm-hmm.
He talked to Tom Cruise and he's like, "Hey, Tom is so excited to meet you. He's glad you're in the movie. I told him how great it was to work with you." I'm like, "Oh, thanks a lot, man." So 2 days beforehand, I find I'm not doing that role. And Friday night, I show up Monday morning, and Tom Cruise like, "Hey, Ralphie told me you're a great guy. Let's hang out." So we go in his dressing room, and for the 8 days I was there, I was either in this like gymnasium, like that was like curtained off, where I was with the girls and the three guys from the band and me, because I was SAG, and because I'm union and I have lines in the movie, they had to give me my own, dressing. And I didn't have a honey wagon for that. I've gone into other movies where I've had like one or two lines, and you always get a honey wagon, but I didn't mind having to share it with these girls, and they would all go, "Hey, will you guys mind turning your heads?" I go, "Oh, they brought these mirrors in there with lights so the girls could see and do their makeup." So it was for them, not for me, that these mirrors were all in there. But they said, "Will you mind turning, your heads? Can you turn your back to us? We have to like prepare." I'm like, "No, not at all." And I'm trying not to be a pervert or a jerk, but I mean, there's three mirrors right in front of you. What's a mother to do? Oh, look, 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 look. Hello, baby.
Oh,
Come
you
here.
got a kitty.
Yeah. This
There you
is
go.
Mr. Morton. He's
Mm-hmm.
named for a Schoolhouse Rock song. You're
There
familiar with
you go.
Schoolhouse Rock?
Huh?
Are you familiar with Schoolhouse Rock?
I'm not. No.
Well, I might be a little older than you. Schoolhouse Rock was this like 2 minute bit. They would show CBS would show them Saturday mornings in between cartoons. There'd be a
Mm-hmm.
cartoon from 9 to 9:30, and at 9:28 or 9:29, they'd show this cartoon, this animated teaching vessel, and you would learn about adjectives or pronouns, and you'd learn like how a bill gets passed. That's one of the most famous ones. I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. But my daughter named the cat Mr. Morton because Mr. Morton walked down the street. Mr. Morton walked. Mr. Morton talked to his feet. Mr. Morton talked. And they explain to you what that means, and so that's where she got the name. We
It's
just
a
know him
nice
as
kitty.
Morton, Mort, Mortarama, a lot of names, but I love Skittles. What a great name.
Yeah, he was named that whenever I got him. He's a rescue kitty. He's my
Great.
buddy.
You're a hero.
Yeah, well, actually my parents are heroes. They had him before me, but When they became terminally ill, they kept their Australian Shepherd, and they asked if I would take Skittles on, and I said sure because I'm more a cat person. So you
See,
know.
I've been a dog person my whole life.
Hmm.
We had dogs growing up. We had one dog for 13. My first dog got shot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we lived on a cul-de-sac, and this woman across the street and like four houses over put her 99-pound German Shepherd out on a line. She was attached, like to a collar, and the other side was on a line so she could run
Hmm.
around the backyard, but the backyard was not fenced in. So Oliver and several other male dogs were over at the backyard.
Hmm.
And rather than shoo them away or call my mom or call the police, she took out a pellet gun and shot my dog. And I'm 9.5 years old. And my dog knew he didn't have the strength to get to our house, so he walked across the street to my best friend's house. And Mrs. Rudenberg found him, and she took him to the vet, but it was too late. It was really sad. And this woman ended up getting fined like $125 for firing off a firearm in a school district. Like she didn't get in trouble for killing my dog. My dad came to pick me up like, noon at school that day. Like, that's weird. Dad never comes to pick me up, and I don't get out till 3:30. Because Harry, you're gonna skip the rest of the day. I want you to come with me. We gotta do something. We have to chat. I'm thinking like, are we going to the racetrack again? Like, no, no. And he tells me that I said I wish it had been me instead of Oliver when I heard what happened to him. But my dad went to go talk to the vet who tried to save him. And at the same time, there was a woman there with 6 Lhasa Apso puppies, the same breed, little fur balls. And she overheard the story, and she goes, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wasn't trying to listen, but I overheard, and you got 4 kids, you know." She goes, "In about 6 or 8 weeks, these puppies will be ready to be given away, and I just want to give your kids one. So here's my number. Have your wife bring the kids out one day. They can play with the puppies, pick one out." And so that's how we got Oliver too. And we had him for like 13 years. And I love dogs. Oliver died of old age, and then we got another dog named Dodger. I hate the Dodgers, but it was the musical Oliver. Oliver hangs out with the Artful Dodger.
Hmm.
So my brother went out the next day after that and bought a female dog. And to keep with the musical theater theme, he named her Dolly. So we had Dodger and Dolly, and they have a litter, right? 3 little puppies. And like 8 weeks later, I said, "Mom, we got to get rid of these dogs. Have you thought about who you want to give them to?" She says, "Well, give them to someone." She said, "I'm not breaking up a family." Like, what? She said, "I'm not breaking up a family." So we had 5 dogs. We had one dog for 13 years. Now all of a sudden we got 5 dogs. One of them has a litter, and my mom wants to keep the small one. She's like, "She's such a peanut. We'll call her Peanut because I don't know what'll happen to her if she's not here with me." Well, she probably won't be bored to death every day, So we had 6 dogs. At one point, I swear to God, at one point we had 8 dogs running around our house. It was a pretty big house. I was lucky, but 8 dogs, it's crazy. So they say couples fight over sex and money. My wife and I used to fight over sex and money. She just wanted it all the time. What can I tell you? We also fought over temperature, and we fought over cat versus dog. She had a cat growing up. I had dogs. And we have 2 kids, and I just want to get them, a dog. What a great pet. She's like, "No, we'll get a cat." All the cats I've ever met, they fly out of rooms. They don't hang out with you. Dogs are like part of the family. They'll hang out. They'll watch TV. They'll do whatever. So my wife asked me if we could watch her friend's cat for 4 days. And then after 4 days, her friend comes back from the wedding and tells us that she found out her 9-year-old son is allergic to cats. How can he be 9 and you're just finding out now? So I said, Wendy, this is such a scam. You've set this up. And I ended up having, my kids are in the room, and she goes, well, she's going to bring her to the shelter. And you know what happens to cats that don't get picked up at the shelter? They put them down dead. And my kids are sitting here. And at the time, they're like, I don't know, 14 and 9. They're like, Dad, please, we got to save this cat. Like, your mom arranged this whole thing, right? There's probably a list of people that'll take him if we don't take him. But so I said, okay. And he's a great cat. He's awesome. He hangs out and watches TV with me. And like I said, he's nocturnal, which I love. And he meows a little too much when I go in the kitchen. But like he'll start cuddling up and rubbing his face against my leg when I'm in the kitchen. When he wants something, he'll start, nuzzling up to me. But my wife was the same way. So anyhow, I didn't mean to tangent off on cats, but Mr. Morton showed up. And watch, when you get a chance, check out Schoolhouse Rock, Mr. Morton.
Okay. Okay.
I'd ask you if you have kids. Do you and Emma have any imaginary children?
No, I don't like kids. I always tell people, why have kids? Get a cat. Solves everything.
Greg, I like you. You're committed.
Yep.
I
Yep.
do appreciate that.
All I have to do is give him his food, his litter, treats every now and again,
Mm-hmm.
Skittles happy. When I go on vacation, my brother comes over and makes sure he has all those things, and yeah.
I can't do the litter anymore. I had a liver transplant like 4 months ago, and one of the things they said is they asked me, "Do you have an animal in your house?" I said, "Yeah, we have a cat." They go, "Stay away from the kitty litter, not because of the poop, but because there's something in there that liver patients cannot have contact with." I'm like, "You're kidding
Oh,
me, right?" So my son always does the litter, takes it out, and refills it when he needs to. And I would do it. It's like when we found out there are babies, when the kids were babies, and they both would refuse the bottle after a couple weeks. They would wake up in the middle of the night bawling, and they would want their mother's breast. And I would like get up, and I'm so tired, and I remember that I can't wake up and give them a bottle. That Wendy has to wake up and she has to feed them, or she gets to wake up and gets to feed them. And I would always say in a straight face, "Honey, I wish I could get up and take care of the kids, but they want you." And she'd get up, and I'd say, "I'm right here if you need me." As soon as the door would close, so it's that kind of thing. But now I found out I'm not just a dog lover, I'm a pet lover.
mm-hmm. Yep.
But I like
Yep.
kids. Kids are great.
I've never wanted kids. That's a responsibility that requires patience that I don't have, and people that are willing to commit to that, all the more power to them, you know?
Do you hand out candy on Halloween, or do you just have a big sign over the door? FO.
No, actually, I was in Toronto on Halloween. I went and I assisted Lisa Langlois, a Canadian actress, at a horror film convention and at Niagara Falls. And I spent a week in Toronto, so I was there on Halloween. I actually went to the theater and watched Five Nights at Freddy's. So yeah, no, I didn't see any trick-or-treaters really, but um, no, I mean, it's not that I hate kids, it's just I just don't want the responsibility, and I'm happy with Skittles here, and as far as relationships go, I mean, all joking aside about Emma Stone being on a big screen thing, um, for me to be in a relationship, like my brother has what I call a good marriage because he and his wife, they like to watch the same TV shows. They like to go golfing together. They enjoy spending time together. And it's something I didn't see a lot of growing up because my dad and mom they were together for 50 years. And dad just passed away in April of 2022 after 8 years of ALS. But
Hmm.
dad worked all the time, even after retirement, still worked. It was just how he went. And mom liked to go shopping and stuff like that. And dad just wasn't into that lifestyle. So I can't, but you want to talk about opposites attract. I don't know how my parents got together, but they stayed together for 50 years. But dad provided and mom spent.
Well,
But
they had a formula and they had wonderful kids, so that helps them go. I'm sorry for your loss.
mhm.
People say, "Oh, your dad lived to be, you know, 91 or 86." One of them was 91, one of them was 86 when they left, and it's still a loss. My grandpa lived to be 95, but I wanted him around longer. We all did, but it's still a loss. And so I'm sorry for your loss, but
Mhm.
if it's recent, just know that you'll be able to, there are days when you're going to want to call him and talk to him and you'll forget, you'll remember, oh, yeah. But by keeping, just by talking about him can keep him alive in your memories. And, we lose people, but, we can remember them and we tend to remember all the good things. And so I wish that for you. How old is your mom?
My mom right now is
Didn't mean to throw a trick question at you.
she was born in 47, so
Okay,
she's in her
so
70s.
she's 80. She
No,
no wait, hold on. 47. So she's 76.
okay. Dad was 75 when he passed, but
So she beat him.
yeah. Well,
I hope
yeah,
she's around for a long, long time.
Dad was born the year before her, so but nonetheless, Dad had Skittles stay with me, so I've wanted to move to Toronto, and two things have been preventing me. One, the price of rent and housing,
Yeah, it's a very cosmopolitan city.
and number two, places that will accept pets. And I'm not getting rid of Skittles so I can move.
Oh, there's plenty of places that will accept pets. And
Yeah,
you can find a deal. You're an internet guy. You can find a place and go to what hockey team do you cheer for up in New Brunswick?
I don't get into sports.
You live in Canada and you don't have a hockey team?
I choose the hockey team of Emma Stone, and I cheer for it every time she does a movie.
Okay, all right, that's great. So Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise was friendly. He was cool. Even though I had a reduced role, he still wanted to hang out. And this is, obviously it's, during the filming of Risky Business before he becomes this major star.
Hmm.
Could not have been a nicer guy. He tells me that he's got a new guy he's been listening to. Have I ever heard Bruce Springsteen? I'm like, dude, I have 10 bootlegs in my car. He's like, wait, bootleg? I go, yeah, like someone recorded him at a concert. He goes, oh, can I hear him? So I went and I got him a couple and I gave him back to him. I gave him to him and I said, hey, listen to these. I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but just, try to keep him around. And when you're not listening to him, and, you can give him back to me when you're done listening to him. And next day, he's like, man, it's great. I only listened to one. I kept listening to it, but Springsteen is so great. Like, yeah, duh. I've now seen Bruce 41 times. I saw him 45 days after my liver transplant when I was supposed to be
Wow.
at home recovering. Right. But it was Bruce. I couldn't miss it. But Tom Cruise is great. And then there was Rebecca De Mornay, who was the opposite of that. She thought
Oh.
she thought she was Betty Davis. She thought she was just the most important actress to have ever breathed air. And she came to the to Tom's Honey Wagon once. When people don't know what that is, that's just like a a massive dressing room. It's on
Mm-hmm.
wheels,
Yeah.
and the actors get them, and like
Mm-hmm.
stars tend to get lead actors tend to get like the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bathroom in there. There's a mirror in there, and there's a fridge, and you can live in there if you wanted to. But Rebecca De Mornay came in once, and she looks at me, and I hear her say to Tom, she goes, uh, he's not a not one of the top actors in the movie. He doesn't have a big role. He goes, man, he's fun. We're just hanging out. She goes, yeah, but he's kind of like, he's like just a step above from being an extra. He's like, hey, keep your voice down. I'll talk to you later. And so she's venom in heels. I just really, on behalf of actors everywhere, and it's a different perspective. One man's ceiling is another man's floor. So if you get a partner, yeah, I went into audition for that role with like 18 other talented Chicago area actors, and then in my 20s, I'm going up against guys from the Goodman Theater, from Steppenwolf, two of the biggest theaters in the country, from all these other, theater, like Northlight and Looking Glass. Looking Glass was David Schwimmer's company. And, you know, I beat all these actors out. And so I got a part in a movie. So for me, that's like doing great. And then for her to come in and say, oh, he's not even a lead, hey, Rebecca, here's your lunch. What are you gonna do? Just it's amazing because
Well,
I met a ton of athletes, doing sports radio for 25 years in Chicago. I met so many athletes. And the guy I worked with, we bumped heads a lot, but he told me something right when I started. He said, "Don't meet your idols." I'm like, why? What is that supposed to mean? He goes, "Your idols will disappoint you more than anyone else. If they're not who you think you are, that will be a big fall from grace that you're going to be right there to see." And he's right. I remember players that were wonderful to me when I was a kid. I remember, one Chicago Bears legend that was a dick to me, and no reason to bring up his name. But it's his first name kind of sounds like it might be a girl's name. That's all I'll say. But you meet. So I was meeting athletes. I was hosting this ESPN show for 15 years, and I meet athletes, and some of them were great, and then some of them like big heroes to me, and you meet them, and they're just so disappointing. So don't meet your heroes, and also like to the heroes out there, to the stars. I'm friendly with the guy that pitched for the Cubs like 20 years ago. His name is Steve Traxel. He also pitched for the Mets and the Blue Jays in Tampa Bay, but mostly with the Cubs. And he's a great guy, and I'm still friends with him. And I'm friends with another guy, Kelly Wunsch, who used to pitch for the White Sox, then the Dodgers. And both these guys, anytime they were in public and someone would ask them for an autograph, they would just stop on a dime from whatever they're doing, and they'd say, "Sure, what's your name?" "Yeah, you go to Cubs games, you go to Sox games." And they'd sign the autograph. And people remember that the rest of their lives, that 3-minute encounter. They have a picture maybe, and it's just so important. And Rebecca De Mornay, I had one experience with her, and she couldn't have been more of the C word if she had wanted to be. So just, for what it's worth, my 2 cents.
I got two things to say about that.
Yes.
Number
Tell me
one,
both of them.
I'm going to tell you both of them. Number one, She said that she made you feel beneath her and this and that. You know what's funny? When I do this show, I'll have anybody on. All I need is a story, you know? And I'm gonna tell you, it was great having people like Ralph Bakshi on here and Tony Basil and people like that, Tommy Wiseau. But you know what? This year, I had one of the women that worked with me at the hospital when I cleaned there come on because she had a side hustle selling makeup online. And I just kind of discovered this by accident. And I asked her to come on, do a Zoom and do a little demonstration of it. She loved it. I work for a cleaning company right now where my supervisor, like I'm always bugging the shit out of her. And she hired me back in 2020 and she just asked me, she said, "Can I come on your show?" I said, "Sure." And I had a ton of stuff I was able to heckle her about during the interview. She had fun. It had, and to me, some people might look at that and say, "Who wants to hear that?" And I'm like, you know what? If I'm lying on my deathbed later in life, I'm gonna listen back on that and I'm gonna say, you know what? What memories, you know? And plus, you got the chance to allow somebody that maybe from a average person's vantage point wasn't up there, but you got to make them feel like they were up there just by having them come on and talking to them and make them feel like they mattered. And I think that's important. Like one of the reasons that film shoot with me that didn't work out, they made me feel beneath them. And you want to talk about Rebecca Durone? I Judy Aronson, I would describe the same way. Um, but nonetheless, I could step away from that experience because I interviewed some 25 people from that film, including a lot of people that nobody else would have touched. And I did that because who am I, you know? Who am I? So I don't look at you as being beneath Rebecca Dormone at all.
Neither
When
do I.
when Tommy Kovac mentioned because I was like, man, I hadn't had anybody from Risky Business this year, and he brought your name up and told me about you, and he mentioned you were in Up the Academy as well. I was like, oh, double whammy, and all I kept thinking was every time I watch this film, I've interviewed three people from it, and it makes the experience watching this even more special, you know. I'll tell you, I've heard wonderful stuff about Tom Cruise, including from autograph seekers. I've heard Tom Cruise is a genuine nice guy. Rebecca Dormorne, it's so sad to hear stuff like this because I'm going to tell you one of my favorite scenes in Risky Business was her intro, because Paul Brickman, who directed the film, I don't know why he didn't go on to do more because what a brilliant director he is. But I thought Tom Cruise was still like asleep and dreaming this because you got the doors open and the breeze and all the leaves coming in. She comes in, but what you're seeing is the dreamy state of Tom Cruise, but what he's seeing is an exaggerated version of how he's feeling, you know? And it's sad because Rebecca Dormorne was such a gorgeous woman, and it's sad when you hear stuff like that. The other point I
But
want to
even if she weren't gorgeous, it would be sad
mhm.
because fame is fleeting, and Tom Cruise will forever be known, and he's legendary. But Rebecca De Mornay, a lot of people are like, "What was the name of that girl that was in Risky Business?" You know. By the way, thank you for saying Paul Brickman. One of the things that happens when you have a liver transplant is you're always cold. The room is 20
Mhm.
degrees colder for me than it is for everybody else. If I'm
Mhm.
in a 70 degrees room, it's 50 to me. And the other thing is your memory. My short-term memory sucks and my brain gets foggy. I mentioned before Andrew Davis was directing Risky Business. He directed The Package, another
Yep.
movie I'm in with the great Gene Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones
Mhm.
and Dennis Franz. But Paul Brickman was the director
Yeah.
of Risky Business.
I caught your
Great
mistake.
guy as well as a fabulous director. You could have been
Uh,
right to me.
I think that Paul Brickman was a genius. Some of the like I'll come back to this. You mentioned not meeting your heroes, but one of the women I had a crush on growing up was Lisa Langlois from Class of 1984. And she was one of my heroes I met, and she's become an endearing friend because I just got done doing my third convention with her. And she was on here. I've had her on here twice. And in 2017, I had her on here for the second time. And we got talking about travel because she had just moved back from Los Angeles back to Toronto. And she lived in Los Angeles for, I forget how long, so I think 32 years, she said. But she asked what was stopping me from traveling. And I always got homesick going anywhere. But she, as the Godfather would say, made me an offer I could not refuse. And I'm glad I didn't. She said, "Look, there's a convention coming up called Horrorama in Toronto." She said, "Why don't you come down here and you can be my assistant at it?" And I was like, "Really?" All I kept thinking was Class of 1984 and images of Lisa in it. And I'm like, this woman's inviting me? And I was scared to death of the thought of leaving Fredericton and going to Toronto, but it's like, I won't get an offer like this again. So it was my first time flying, and I ended up enjoying it. And when I landed in Toronto, I hadn't seen escalators since the 80s because we don't have them here anymore. My first experience going on a GO train, subway. Lisa met me at the Union Station, and she couldn't have been any nicer if she wanted to be. And I met her, and she taught me all about the subways because we don't have them here, and the streetcars. And to the point now when I've been going to Toronto, with the exception of 2020, I've been going back to Toronto every year. Now I can get on those subways like it's nothing and just go to where I need to be. But Lisa and I have remained great friends. We exchange Christmas gifts, you know. She'll even send stuff for Skittles here, you know.
Oh,
Yeah. And I tell you, if it wasn't for Lisa, I would never have experienced this. And through her, I've met other people in the industry. I've also like she wants to do Chiller in New Jersey next year.
oh, cool.
And she was the reason I got a passport. So I've now got a passport. And she helped me get set up on that when I was in Toronto last year. And when she does Chiller, if I can get the time off from work, I definitely would like to do that with her. And I'm like, and she taught me about getting business cards and stuff like that done up. And Lisa has been instrumental on me being a better person. So, and she was somebody I always loved growing up. And like I said, and when I worked with her at Frightmare in the Falls, we had another guy that was there. One of the handlers was there, and he became. I actually had him on the show as well, and he was a great guy. But he was telling me stories about some nightmare situations as he's had, at some of these cons, and he said that, gee, Lisa was one of the nicest experiences he had. And I'm like, I've been very fortunate that not only was Lisa somebody I liked growing up, but she turned out to be even lovelier in person. And
That's a
I
great that I love hearing stories like that. That's a great story, and
mhm.
she is lovely. Does that look like her?
That's not Lisa Langlois.
Well, oh, it's Lisa Langford. I'm glad you're able to tell them apart. Lisa Langlois.
Yeah. She was in class of 1984.
Right,
She
right,
was
right.
in Happy Birthday to Me. She was in Deadly Eyes, stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to get her. Okay, let's go. I
But
know. Go
yeah,
ahead. It's what I get for trying to, you
but
know.
she turned out to be an awesome person. I'm sad to hear that Rebecca De Mornay was
I know
not that.
you're really upset by this, Greg. Greg, there are many people that are like this. There are people that you meet.
I hope Emma Stone's nice. I haven't heard any
I hope you
negative
meet her.
about
I
her.
hope you get to meet her.
I would love to meet Emma Stone.
And
But
just cut out like the parts of this, cut out me and just send her. Say I was doing an interview on my show and I devoted like when I talked about you was my favorite part, and I devoted all this time to how special you are in my mind, and she'll love the stuff about you have a relationship with her and you go to the movies. Now, also, Greg,
uh,
there are uh, psychiatrists, and they can help you. The first step, like me with drinking, the first step is admitting, hey, I've got a problem. And then
uh
from there, they can move you to an actual woman that you can meet in
Ah,
person.
I got a cat. He's my psychiatrist,
Uh-huh.
and he's my buddy.
So you're
You
telling me
know,
there's no escalators in New Brunswick?
we used to have them in the up to the mid '80s. And
They
we
took
don't
so
have them.
someone made a decision like this is too easy. Let's take the escalators out. Someone made that decision.
I'm going to tell you, when I got off the plane in Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto, I didn't take the ferry across, I took the tunnel, and when I saw those escalators, I was like, nostalgia. I got on those things, and I was like, oh, I remember this. This is so nice.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
But
Um,
no, because I'm going to say in Risky Business, I was going to say one of my favorite scenes is where Tom Cruise gets on that bike and he has to, because he's in a dire state, and he bikes a long distance until he finds Rebecca De Mornay. When he gets up there to her apartment loft, one of her girlfriends opens the door, and
don't spoil the movie for me.
oh, this is in the middle of it. And he ends up crying on her shoulder. And I'm like, and she was such a beautiful woman. I'm like, well, if you go cry on somebody's shoulder, why not? But I don't know. Like,
Like
uh,
Sylvester Stallone cried on Burgess Meredith's shoulder. It's like who
yeah,
would
but
you
Burgess
rather?
Meredith, great actor, but not as pretty as Rebecca De Mornay.
Right, but she never played the Penguin on the original TV show.
She didn't play Ammon in Clash of the Titans either. I love Clash of the Titans, but
I saw that movie.
I love Clash of the Titans. It's one of my favorites from my childhood. But I'm going to tell you two scenes that always are referenced in this. Tom Cruise, of course, dancing in his underwear, sliding across the floor
Mhm.
to old time rock and roll. And of course, that scene where he's got the glasses on, the sunglasses on. But you know what? There's so many other things that Paul Brickman did with this movie. Like I said, Rebecca De Mornay's introduction was fantastic. That whole sequence. Because when he gets up the next morning, we're actually thinking he was dreaming. And then she's just sitting there and reality sets in. I love the whole opening. I've interviewed Francine Locke, who was the woman in the shower and the opening sequence. And that scene was brilliant, you know? Uh, oh my goodness, what else? A scene on the subway
The
with
party scene. Come on, the party scene.
we're gonna get to that, but there's a scene on the
We're
there's a scene
going to
on the
get to that.
subway.
This is like a 24-hour interview. It's somewhere this interview turned into a telethon.
Yeah. Well, you had Paul M. Sampson was on here for over 5 hours talking about Blade Runner and Conan the Barbarian, and it was mostly him talking. So,
Wow.
but the subway scene, you get the Phil Collins Genesis song there, and why am I blanking on the name of it?
If I had seen the
In the
movie,
Air Tonight. In the Air Tonight is playing. Works so well.
that's
I
also in
love.
The Hangover.
Oh, I love The Hangover. I've done an interview from that one too. Natalie Faye, hotel desk clerk. She was awesome. But yep, the party scene. Number one, Richard Macer was so funny when he visits a party.
I see. I don't know what he did in the movie.
He
Again,
was
because
there to talk
I
to
was
Tom
upset
Cruise's.
because they took my big role away from me, but
Mm,
left me with the smaller part. Um, but Richard Mazer, I got to have lunch with him several days in a row, and I knew him from One Day at a Time, the sitcom, and he was a great guy. My favorite guy was Joe Pantaleona.
oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
everybody called him Joey Pants. And he was great. And I went to a Blackhawks game, and he was sitting right behind me. I'm like, Joey Pants. And it was like, so I got 8 days on a movie set, but you see the movie and it's like, that was Harry. But I mean, it's a big memory to me because I had been, 2.5 months in Kansas filming Up the Academy.
Hmm.
And then the next year I'm doing 8 days in some high school that was like 15 minutes from my house, 20 minutes from my house. And you remember these things. I'm in Bonnie Hunt's movie Return to Me. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I did. Actually, David Duchovny bawling in the kitchen there. Like that was where you knew that guy could really act.
Well, that guy's a wonderful actor and a really
Yeah.
good guy. And I wanted him to come on my radio show. I'm doing a sports radio show. And I'm like, dude, come on my radio show. We don't have to make it all hardcore Knicks, but we can just talk about whatever. And he's like, no, I want to talk hardcore Knicks. They have a couple issues and the Knicks need to fix it right away. I love this guy. He's on the set making this major movie, and Bonnie Hunt is just, I mean, she's the greatest. I hate it when people say she's the funniest female in America. She's one of the funniest people in America. Don't confuse that she's like in a category that's not as important or not as good. She is just hysterical off the top of her head. And she wrote that movie with the guy Don Lake, who's also very funny. And I've known her for a while, and she said, "Harry, you want to be in a movie?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I got to film that, and I got one scene with David Duchovny and Minnie Driver, and it was a blast. So even though there are people like the desk clerk, in Hangover,
Oh, she
um,
was wonderful. Hmm.
I mean, you have these memories your whole life, and you remember who was cool and who was not. We've had people come in our studio, and they were so cool, you know. Um, I mean, some big major stars, and I mean, I've interviewed Adam Sandler and Hugh Jackman, and it's not a sports radio show. But you know, I met Michael. I never had Michael on, but we had Scottie Pippen on, and I had Kobe Bryant on the air once. He was great. He caught my Goodfellas reference and recognized it right away.
Hmm.
But you've got one chance. People don't realize, like, if you're, if you're a normal guy, no one's going to come up to you out of the blue and bother you while you're at a restaurant or at a movie or in the bathroom. But if you're at that level and someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I love your movies," or "Oh, you're my favorite player. Would you mind signing this autograph?" Just do it, because it'll make that person so happy. And if you don't, they'll remember you 30 years later for being a dickwad,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But
It's interesting you say that because I used to be a big fan of Jennifer Lawrence, and I still think she's a fine actress. But she had said something in recent years that turned me off of her. She said that,
did she
and
say
I
Emma
get
Stone is a biatch?
no, she and I get it. People don't want to be hounded when they're out doing their own thing. I get that. But she said something, I'm not going to get this word for word, but she doesn't like doing selfies with fans because she don't know who they are. But yet she doesn't mind take doing selfies with other celebrities. And when she's being interviewed, she doesn't say her best friend. She says, "My best friend Amy Schumer." Like she's trying to tell you what.
Drop,
Yeah.
drop.
And I find I know she's friends with Emma Stone, but here's the difference. Here's the difference, and this is another reason why I admire Emma. Jennifer Lawrence gets married, the tabloids are covering it. Jennifer Lawrence has a child, tabloids know about it. Emma Stone got married, nobody knew about it. Emma Stone has a child. The only reason that tabloids knew about it because somebody had taken pictures of her filling her vehicle up at a gas station and she was showing. Emma wasn't announcing this, you know? Um, and I love the fact that Emma doesn't go into her personal life. I admire Jennifer Lawrence as an actress, but if I'm not worth a selfie because I'm great, okay, she doesn't know me. But you know what? When I go to the movie theater, we got a 10 screen movie theater. If one of her movies is playing, I'm just picturing her off to the sides, hoping that I'm going to go to hers. And guess what? It's not her celebrity friends that are going to make that movie a profit.
Right.
Exactly.
She could also just say, "My friend Amy."
Yep.
That's that's not right.
So I got really turned off her. And I've interviewed a couple people from Silver Linings Playbook, which she was in, including an actor
Which
that was in it.
spectacular movie.
Yep.
Boy, you're in a movie with the greatest actor alive today, Robert De Niro, and with Jennifer Lawrence, and you outact both of them. Bradley Cooper, just everything he does is impressive.
Well, here's the thing. I had Bree B on, who was the woman that played his cheating wife in the movie, and she was so fun. She has a very young at heart kind of personality. And I interviewed another actor from it who's just in a very bit part, and he comes on here and he said he was surprised I wanted to talk to him because he said as he's in a small part, he's very insignificant in the movie, and I'm like, I don't consider yourself insignificant. And if you're coming on this show, you're making me feel valued. I'd say that's a good thing. I said, come on, let's chat. And he come on. I don't like making people feel like they don't matter. I like people to feel like they do matter. I'm reminded of that scene in the Bible where Jesus is walking and he's crowded around people and this elderly woman who had inner bleeding or something of that nature. Says if she could only just touch his robe, she'll be healed. And she touches his robe and she goes, "Who touched me?" And everybody was like, "You're being crowded on all sides, blah, blah, blah." But he knew. And of course, it was this what they would consider an insignificant woman. And he said, "Go, your faith has made you free." Or, you see lots of examples like that. So I I tend to gravitate towards allowing people to feel like they matter because we have a real mental health issue in this world. And one thing that people don't need is people telling them they don't matter. So, I
It's
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
So,
mean, like I said, the whole time when I was doing these smaller roles, and I'm in another movie I can't remember right now, but I'm doing sports radio, and I'm very, doing well, and so I never felt like Becca De Mornay was better than me. I mean, that was long before I ever got to sports radio, but that was when I was like, just out of college and living the life of Riley, and you know
but she made her
that
comments
that
about you
moment
were,
that moment was like, I still think about. I mean, when you say her name, I can remember that moment like it happened day before yesterday.
and that's sad. How awesome that Tom Cruise treated you really well, and he's
You know
what
what?
the biggest movie star in the world right now.
You know who else I'm Up the Academy was directed by Robert Downey Sr., and
Hmm.
it's the first movie that RD Jr. is ever in.
You mean Iron Man?
And he was in the Iron Man suit every scene. I'm like, that doesn't work. This is a military academy. You wouldn't be dressed as Iron Man. He goes, just wait. Okay. But I've had a chance to be around some wonderful people. And then, I'm a huge sports fan, so I got a chance. I know I do have this one buddy in Canada. In Canada, he doesn't even like hockey. But but I mean, I collect jerseys, and I've got like a Canucks. I've got 3 Canucks jerseys for
You
some
collect New
reason.
Jersey?
Do I collect what? New Jersey? I do, because I've got every Springsteen album ever. I've got all those bootlegs from Bruce. I've got some Sinatra CDs. I watched Sopranos every episode. I've been to the Meadowlands racetrack. So I've been to I have a lot of good my most significant girlfriend in my life, other than the woman I married, was from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So
Hmm.
I collect New Jersey. And if Mississippi wears a New Jersey, what will Delaware? Idaho, Alaska. It's like Dixie Riddle Cup humor.
Before
Um,
we get to up to the academy, is there any other memories you have from being on the set of Risky Business? Any hijinks or anything that was going on for the party scene? Like uh, not necessarily hijinks as in drinking or drugs, but just anything that just stands out that was funny to you. Anything at all?
well, I thought the director did an amazing job. Paul Brickman did an amazing job. Just he was like part director and part ringmaster, and he had so many different things going on, and he had a plan. He was prepared, boy. He was over prepared, which I respect the hell out of. And I just thought he was great. He was funny. um I remember that there was this one girl that was one of the ladies of the evening, who
Hmm.
was like really bored with like having to wait. So I'm like, well, we could just go in my car and talk. She's like, cool. She's like, we're going in my car like 3 afternoons in a row, sitting there for like 45 minutes or an hour. And she's like, what if they need us? I'm like, there's 28 guys with those giant walkie talkies. If someone needs us, they'll find us. there's only so many parking spots, we're all in the same area, so they'll come check this. But like, yeah, I spent like 3 days going, should I or shouldn't I? She was really a sweet girl, a nice girl, and she was talking to me about like how scared she was the first day, and she's starting to feel better, but she's still really worried they're going to throw her out of the movie. I'm like, no, they're not. You're wonderful. Why would they throw you out? You just know you're doing everything right, and enjoy this. And I thought about making the moves, but I was, I don't know, too respectful or too scared, and I never did. But that would have been a great story. But I just remember that like this, like I was hanging out. Three guys from the band were cool, and then the other people I was hanging out with were like all these gorgeous, you know, women dressed as hookers in lingerie. Like, oh, this sucks, man. I didn't even film today, and I got to go back tomorrow, and I'm just going to sit there all day with these 10 or 12 hookers, and okay. And I went from asking the director, hey, are you thinking at all about maybe putting me in this movie? Are we going to film this at some point? And he goes, yeah. I thought about telling him, hey, dude, push it back 3 weeks. I would just hang here, and it's all good, you know, made up for what happened in high school. I'll tell you that.
Up. Talk about Up the Academy.
Up the Academy was awesome. It was wonderful. I had left, so of all the colleges in the world, I went to Kansas, University of Kansas. It's really a wonderful school. And the whole state of Kansas is like the Wizard of Oz. It's all in black and white. But Lawrence, Kansas, rolling hills, beautiful campus, really cool, town, faculty. It's not Chicago, it's not Toronto, but it's great college town. And like most state schools, their town is like the most, happening of all the colleges. Like the same is true of like Norman, Oklahoma, and Lincoln, Nebraska, and just Evanston. I live so close. I'm 15 minutes from Northwestern University where I live, and these are the towns that are like cutting edge politically, and so much stuff is going on. It's very eclectic, place. So Lawrence, Kansas was really cool, but I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in college. So I left the University of Kansas and said, maybe I'll go back. I said, there's nothing wrong with getting a college degree. Maybe I'll go back to college, but not until I get a part in a movie. And then less than a year later, I'm sorry, less than 3 months later, I'm doing a part in a movie in Kansas. We filmed it in Salina, Kansas. So I went in to audition for this guy, Tony Bill, who directed My Bodyguard. And at the end of the, we went in, my best friend and I went in to meet him. And Tom had been in a bunch of stuff, but and national commercials. But he talked to us for about 5-6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most, and made him laugh a couple times. But he goes, all right, guys, thanks for coming in. And there were a ton of people out there. So Tom got up and left. And I just said, pardon me, Mr. Bill. And, I was trying to not to laugh when I called him Mr. Bill. Oh, no, Mr. Bill. But I said, as long as I'm here, could I read for you? I got a side. I prepared this part. Would it be cool with you if I just read for you and you could tell me? I mean, I'd love to get the perspective of a brilliant young filmmaker of how I did today. He goes, all right, read for me, please. So he put me on tape for My Bodyguard, and I got called back like 3 times for that role for The Bodyguard. They went with Adam Baldwin, who I know. He went to New Trier also. Adam's like a big guy. He's in shape. I would have been a different choice, for My Bodyguard. But he called me back a couple of times, and he ended up showing the tape to his buddy, Robert Downey Sr. And that's how I got the part in Up the Academy. And it was like magic. And I got to, I got to turn 19 on the set of a movie. I recommend that to everybody out there. It was a wonderful time. The story is, so the two guys that wrote the Bob Newhart show, which was a major hit in the 70s, like after Mary Tyler Moore and All in the Family, Bob Newhart might have been the most respected show of that era. It ran for a long time. He's a psychologist in Chicago, and his wife is Suzanne Plachette, and really, really funny show, well written show. And the two guys that wrote that wrote up the Academy. And what they did was they basically wrote a half-hour sitcom in a 100-minute movie. So there are some issues with the script, but I was thrilled to be in it. I have great memories. And I met Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch, Antonio Fargas. I hung out with him. I got to meet a bunch of other people. I met a gentleman, Ian Wolfe, who played the commandant of the military academy. And he was like 85 or something. He was still very sharp. And since that movie, I've seen him in about 100 different things that he had filmed prior to that movie.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have the ability to, Google someone's resume. We couldn't go to, IMDb. We couldn't, just Google a guy. We were just meeting people and talking to them. And there was this, he was in Star Trek. He was in The Fugitive. Two of my all-time favorite shows. Never recognized him. And just what a cool guy. Leonard Fry, who has a, not as big of a role, but Leonard Fry was Model the Tailor and Fiddler on the Roof. I knew him from a couple movies he acted in. I never realized he was Model the Tailor singing in this epic movie, Fiddler on the Roof. Tom Poston was in it, who was in the original Bob Newhart show.
And let's not forget the gorgeous Barbara Bach, and you had Stacey Nelkin in it.
You really know the movie. Stacey Nelkin was great, and Barbara Bach was like jaw-dropping. It was jaw-dropping when Barbara Bach first appeared on the set. And the scenes I'm filming with her, me and the other guys, they say, okay, now in this scene, we just want you to stare at Barbara Bach, how beautiful she is, how great her rack looks. We want you to just stare at her. And I have been talking about Barbara Bach for a couple of years because I had just seen The Spy Who Loved Me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the Russian spy, and she's awesome in that movie, and she's great looking. And one of the producers at the time was dating her. And he told me there's two things I care about in my life, right now. The New York Giants beating the Cowboys and Barbara Bach. So she showed up on the set and everybody else is like playing it cool. And he's like, hey, Barbara, meet Harry. Harry's been talking about you for 2 or 3 weeks, but how smoking hot you are. This is Harry. Harry, is she as smoking hot in person? Like, dude, I'm 18. Why are you putting me in this spot? I'm like, yes, she is. I'm like, and if you think dating like an executive producer of a movie is cooler than dating like an out of shape actor, I think there's something seriously wrong with you. So if anytime you want to talk to me, I'm here. But she was great, and like, I don't know, a few months after the movie, she's Mrs. Ringo Starr.
Yeah, caveman.
Caveman. Thought, oh God, caveman.
He drops her an amount of shit in that movie.
Yeah. Caveman. Boy, Caveman is like the Act Naturally of the way Act Naturally was for Beatles songs. That's what Caveman was to movies. It was all Ringo. Mm-hmm. And like in 500 Days of Summer, Ringo's a wonderful Beatle to have be your favorite Beatle. But Stacey Nelkin was great. Barbara Bach was spectacular. And the cinematographer had filmed like what did he film, like Ben-Hur or something epic like that. Everybody there, like, whenever they would mention something, like, oh my God, you did that? It was just so freaking cool. And there's one scene where the mob boss, the premise of the movie is is there's 5 kids at a military academy, and the guy that runs it is a nut job. And the guy that runs it is Ron Liebman. And Ron Liebman won an Emmy for Kaz while we were filming it. And he's on Law and Order SVU all the time. He plays like one of the big bosses, and he recently passed away. But he was great, and his wife at the time was Linda Lavin from TV's Alice, who I met when she came to see him on the set. And we had the same birthday, which was cool. And I sent her a dozen roses on her birthday. And Ron's like, Harry, I don't like other guys sending my wife flowers. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I might send her some more tomorrow. It's not even her birthday. What are you gonna do about that? But so the premise is 5 kids in military academy have to get rid of this guy, Leisman. That was his name. And like I said, Newhart's a brilliantly written script. And these guys that wrote it are like 2 of the most respected writers from Hollywood at that time. And it was like they were writing a 30-minute movie. And they said, what are we going to do with the other, 70 minutes we got here? There are some great lines and some terrible lines. And I love the movie. It's really, it's nowhere near Animal House, but it had that, they were trying to get that same type of feel of like, kids against the system, kids against the man. And they wanted all the kids to, in the audience to like go, yeah, way to go, guys, way to go, cadets. And, it was like months and months of prep and PR and very cool. And I'm so excited. And the movie was out for a short time. And I've had relationships that have lasted longer for the amount of time that the Academy was in the theaters. But then it was on cable for a long time. I don't know if you find it now on cable. I don't know if you find it now. Like if you could just ask, Sari or whoever it is, hey, put on Up the Academy. I don't know if you get it, but you could order it. One day on the radio show, somebody called in and said Up the Academy is the 20,000th, exactly 20,000th ranked movie in sales for films. And so one of the 2 guys I work with, Mac, said, I'm going to order 5 at the commercial. He goes, no, do it now. And he got an intern to come in. So go order 5. Here's my credit card. Buying those 5 movies, we jumped to 10,000 and something. It's like, yeah, if this happens again tomorrow, we could be like number 12. This is great. Blowing by French Connection, knocking off, everything. We're smelling The Godfather. But it was a great soundtrack. Blondie's on there. Cheap Trick. How do you not love Cheap Trick? Yep. Jonathan Richman and Modern Lovers. The soundtrack was awesome. And there were people in the movie that were terrific. Hutch Parker and Tom Cetera and Ralph Macchio and Wendell Brown. Those were the cadets with me. I had top billing. Movie started and my name is one of the first 5 that pops out. And Ralphie went on to do that other movie, and we stayed friends. He came and visited me at my house, played floor hockey, a big Islanders fan, Ralphie. And then this other guy, Hutch Parker, who changed his name for the movie to Jay Hutchinson, like initial Jay Hutchinson. His brother was one of the Hardy Boys. You remember the TV show Hardy Boys? Yep. And I got to go to dinner with him and his brother and his mom, who was wonderful, when we did pickup shooting in California. And Robert Downey Jr. was like, here, you owe me $100. I'm like, you're telling me you quit smoking? He goes, I quit smoking. I go, when? When you saw me? He goes, no, I don't smoke anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm going to need confirmation on this. But I used to tell him, you don't treat him like like a director's son. He's just another guy that's on the set. And when we were filming late, he was there filming late. He didn't have any lines in the movie, but I'm not going to say, oh, you could tell he had something special in him. I just thought like this kid was like, you know, cooler than anybody else in the movie. But like he could pay a price for it. I'm like, dude, you're smoking like a pack a day at 14 or 15. You got to stop smoking. I told him I gave him $100 if he stopped smoking. And then he saw me when we did the pickup shooting like 4 months later. And, where you go in and you just like, you dub the voices and stuff like that. Any outdoor scene, you need to do the voice again and match your lips, mouth moving. He wanted the $100, but he didn't get it. Robert Downey Jr. he was cool. Robert Downey Sr. was a piece of work. He was
Wow.
he was a piece of work, man. He was so freaking bizarre, but he was a different type of cool. He was an artist. He was an artiste. He wrote a movie called Putney Swope. It came out like I think late 60s. It's all about the biggest advertising firm in New York City is going down the tubes. And the old man that's run the company for like 25 years dies. So they have to vote on who's going to be the next, COO of the company. And there's also a bylaw that says you have to have at least one black guy on the committee. So this is the 60s, right? So everybody votes for the black guy thinking, well, no one else will vote for him. So I won't lose. I'll get the most votes. And of course, the black guy wins. His name is Putney Swope. And he comes up with these outrageous ads, and the company goes back up, and it's the most popular advertising firm in New York. And it's crazy. One of them is like an airline needs a new image. So he does this commercial where flight attendants are in the back with like huge racks, and they're like bouncing up and down in slow motion. And like one of the customers is in his seat, and one of the flight attendants taps him on the shoulder and does and he goes back there, and he starts jumping on these like trampolines with all these other, smoking hot girls, and they're taking off their tops, they're in their bras, and they're like, oh, fly the friendliest skies, or whatever their slogan was. So, I mean, he had made that movie, and he was crazy cool. And I just, 2.5 months, you're starring in a movie and co-starring in a movie. And it was awesome. It was a great experience. And I don't know if you can find it as easy as you can find Risky Business or The Package or Return to Me, but if you ever see it, enjoy. And I recommend getting really baked before you see the movie.
I've never seen The Package, but looking at the cast credits, I've interviewed Joanna Cassidy on here a couple times.
She's great. She's the female lead.
Yeah. She's awesome. Yeah.
And of course, Gene Hackman, one of the top 5 actors, living today.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that hasn't seen The French Connection, you need to see that right
I
away.
love The French Connection.
It's so great. He goes into PJ Clark's in New York City and gets a burger. And he just takes a big bite out of it. He's looking around, and he knows like his life is in danger, and there's scum on the streets. And like my dad took us to New York City when I was like in my early teens. And he's like, we're going to see Broadway plays. We're going to stay in this, famous hotel across from Central Park. We're going to go to Central Park and have dinner in this restaurant, Tavern on the Green, which is like a restaurant in the middle of the park. And we're going to go to the Village. And I was like, oh my God, that's so great. So we get there, we get to the hotel, and I go, Harry, what do you want to do first? I said, I want to go to PJ Clark's and have a burger like Popeye Doyle did in French Connection. It was just so cool. And that's one of the best chase scenes ever is in The French Connection.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't know how nobody died in filming that. But Gene Hackman, Tommy Lee Jones, Dennis Franz, who of course was the star of NYPD Blue.
Dressed to Kill.
What? Who?
He was in Dressed to Kill.
Oh, he was in Dressed to Kill. Yes.
One of my favorite thrillers, Dressed to
He's
Kill.
great.
Yeah.
So now I'm a sensitive writer. And I've written a play that was incredibly well received in Chicago. And it's, I had some downtime. I got in a little trouble with my radio station for getting a DUI one night. And I checked in a rehab just to save my job. I didn't think I needed to stop drinking. But once I got there, I realized that I'm going to die if I don't stop drinking. Funny thing happened to me when I was in rehab, Greg. I figured out, boy, I really need to be in rehab. And my original plan was to go there for 8 weeks and then come home and drink. And I just had, different ways I was going to do it. And about the 10th day I was there, I found out there was a major problem with my liver. I had stage 4 liver disease. And they said, you better stop drinking, or you could, or something bad could happen. I said, well, I beat you to the punch. I stopped drinking when I came in here. And the doctor goes, great, because there's a lot of people here that are still drinking. But there are people that get sober just by going to the meetings, and the meetings are so important. Some people write them off as self-help groups. I mean, there's 2 million people that are in the group that I'm in. I'm not allowed to mention the group by name because even though I've got over 12 and a half years of sobriety, if I mention them by name and then I go out tonight and drink and get in trouble, they're going to say, oh, this program doesn't work either. So we don't mention them by name, but they're the most revered program in the world. I'll put it this way. If you had a phone book, you could find them right away. I just don't know where you'd find a phone book. But I go to these meetings now, and I go to 2 a week. And some of them, Wednesday night when I do virtually, which has worked out well, because one guy moved to LA, one guy moved to Phoenix. So we're all still in the same meeting. And the Saturday morning meeting is at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Saturday morning. That's when I used to get home. Okay. And so now I'm going to these meetings, and I started to, ESPN after 15 years, they were a new station when I started there. And then our show about 8 or 9 years later, I'm sorry, it would have been like 5 years later. I started, so they put me on a different show in 2000, and our show became the #1 show in afternoon drive, not only for FM, but for AM. It was a sports radio show. It was #1 because we would talk about stuff besides sports. But I got a DUI, and they got mad at me, and so I went to rehab to save my job. And then 2 years later, one day after the show, I'm 6 days away from getting my 2-year chip, and they call me into the office, and they say, here, your contract is up tonight. We're not going to offer you a new contract. I go, what? Why are you firing me? They go, we're not firing you. We're just not offering you another contract. They go, you're the only 3-man sports radio show in Chicago. Obviously, one of you has to go. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Which one are you going to fire, Carmen or Yurko? And they go, no. They go, you make a lot of money for a guy that, doesn't have the lead role. I go, I have no problem with that. And they ousted me after 15 years. I brought in like 24 sponsors, and it was very obvious why they were ousting me. They told me, we work for the mouse. Disney owns us. And if you work at ESPN, it's like you're working for Disney, and you can't behave like that. And then a few weeks after I was bounced, the CEO, with one of the head guys of the company, got caught pleasuring himself on an airplane. And the night that I got my DUI, Jalen Rose, the basketball star who's on ESPN now, and I admire his work on the air, he got a DUI as well. He drove his SUV into a post in a crowded restaurant parking lot and then ran away. 6'10" black man running away. No one will ever recognize him in Bristol, Connecticut. And his SUV had all these stickers, go blue, Wolverine power. His license plate was like was like a JR5. Dude, run as far as you want. They know whose car it is. They have your license plus Michigan stickers. So that guy never missed a day of work. I went to rehab for 8 weeks. And then I finally got a call one day saying, okay, you can come back. So I said, good, I want to finish the rehab and then I'll come back. But I take it very seriously. And one of the big reasons I think I'm still sober is because of all the laughter. When I was a stand-up, I was a stand-up for 7 years, and I would make fun of myself right away. That would give me the opportunity to make fun of other people that I'm going to talk about in my act. Or if you get like some, heckler in the crowd, you can make fun of them because you made fun of yourself. So I get to, I did all, you have to do 90 meetings in 90 days when you start this program. And I was like trying to get out of it immediately. I'm like, the Jew in me came out. I was negotiating. I'm like, 19 meetings in 90 days? That's so arbitrary. How about 10 meetings in 90 days? Like, no, Harry, it's 90. So I went to every kind of meeting that there was. And I got out of rehab. And I'm like, okay, good. I get a break from the meetings now. Although I need to figure out where the meetings are. And my best friend says, hey, I'll be ready at 7:20 tomorrow morning. I'm picking you up. 7:20? For what? Because there's an 8 o'clock meeting. It's the best meeting you're going to go to. 10 years from now, you'll say, that's the best meeting I go to. And it's true. So he picked me up, and we get to this church, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I hear laughter. Like, why are these people laughing? They can't drink. Their life's over. But you meet them, and there are people that were all, their lives were controlled by alcohol, and alcohol was running their lives. And some guys lost their wives, their kids, women who lost their husbands, their kids, and now they're coming back to them because they've got a couple of years or 5 years of sobriety. There's one girl who's like, she's younger than me. She's like 51 or 52, and she's got 34 years of sobriety. Like, man, you must have been a wild ass teenager. But it's a great program, and thank God for me, it saved my life. Anyhow, I got another big radio part after I was let go by ESPN. But then that station went public down the line. And because they were selling their stocks, I was on a brand new WGN, the big station in Chicago. They started an FM sports station. And I was on that doing afternoon drive. And, the year later, they go to sell the station because they got to take the stock public, and our station's still in the red. So I'm out of work, and I'm trying to get another station, talking to TV guys, and everybody's going to hire me. We're going to hire you. But no, nobody is. And I'm just frustrated. So I said, I'm going to write a script. And I started writing this movie. I had a great idea for a movie. And after 5 days and a lot of work, I said, this is BS. I got to write about my story. So I wrote a story about a guy who got pulled over one night coming home from the Blackhawks game, and was forced to go to rehab, and never intended to go, never wanted to go, and planned on drinking as soon as he got out. But I was so naive, Greg, I didn't even realize rehab meant that you stopped drinking. I thought they teach you how to dress like a gentleman. I mean, how to drink like a gentleman. Instead of having 4 Cuervos before you take your coat off, you'd go, martini, shaken, not stirred. But then when I found out what it was, I'm like, never again. I didn't sign anything. Remember that. It saved my life. And I found out last October that I had to have a liver transplant. I mean, if I was drinking, my liver would have just been gone. Or I would have killed myself, maybe somebody innocent, maybe my kids, driving. I hate myself for how often I would drive. And I wasn't like hammered, but like I was over the 0.08 that Illinois says is the limit. My DUI, I was 0.13. So people say, hey, you were barely over the limit. But I'm like, I was so irresponsible. I was driving over the limit, So I have now been able to learn from other people, and I've sponsored other guys, and it's just a great program. So anyhow, I wrote the play about my time in rehab. It's about, the character's name is Harry Teinowitz, and it's about a guy that because of a DUI is forced to go to rehab or lose his job. And the whole thing takes place in rehab. these movies where Meg Ryan is smashing into a glass shower wall, we don't need that drama. There's plenty of drama, plenty of laughs in Rehab. So it's a comedy. I wrote this script for 4.5 years, and then my friend who's a comedian said, "Can I read your script?" He goes, "This is good, but it shouldn't be a one-man show. You got to bring all this cast to life." So, because it's about learning how to ask for help. So we rewrote it. We kept my storyline, but we rewrote it, brought the cast to life, and it got amazing reviews in Chicago. Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie, she came in to play the therapist, and Dan Butler, who was Bulldog, the horny sports radio guy on Frasier. Bulldog. Dan Butler was Harry, and the play got unbelievable reviews. There were 16 reviews. 2 were good. 14 of them were like unbelievable. You would have thought I had written them, but all the words are spelled correctly, so it couldn't have been me. And the name of the play is When Harry Met Rehab.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah, and it's going now. It's going off Broadway. We had a chance to be on Broadway right now, but off Broadway right now. But COVID has affected theater goers horribly in New York, everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world, probably. But as you probably know, a great deal of the ticket buyers for theater, live theater, are single elderly, and since COVID, they have just stopped going out. Not just the theater; they've stopped going out of the house. They're getting their groceries delivered and stuff like that. So we wrote this movie, and it's the comedy that takes sobriety seriously. So I wrote the play, and now it's going off Broadway. My first thing I ever wrote, and I had never written anything like this, and I'm very excited. And anything can go wrong between now and then, but I'm very excited, and the producer is, talking about all kinds of crazy things happening with the show, and I can't wait. So I'm very excited for that. And then the other thing I just got to do is I got to get strong from my liver transplant, because they say it'll take 12 months. So I'm coming up on 5, but I'm playing the long game, and there's a lot of disappointed married housewives in the area. But, I just got to get strong again, and then I can go.
Just or you could do a horror film version of it called When Harry Met Rebecca.
Brilliant, but you can't help yourself, can you? You take a very fun time, and you give me one more glimpse of back of Rebecca de Hornay.
Oh, I love that. Oh, but you know what? You won out in the end. You won out.
Well, I'm winning. I don't know if I won, but I'm winning.
You're winning.
Yeah.
I could say that too, winning. And 2023 was a rough year on me. I lost a job because some asshole was gaslit me, and but luckily I had another job to fall back on, and they like my work, and I'd love to eventually get moved to Toronto because thanks to Lisa, I fell in love with it there. Hence my background is Toronto.
Yeah. I
But
recognize the needle.
yeah.
I know the baseball stadium is right by it, but I can't find the baseball stadium. I think maybe those 2 lights that are, if you're the needle, they're to your right. Maybe those 2 lights are from the stadium.
I don't know. But nonetheless, first half of the year was rough for me, but here I am talking to you on here about risky business and up the academy, and
So things are getting worse.
no, things are getting better.
Okay, good.
Things are getting better, and I'm still working and still doing my show. I had a great uh, trip to Toronto and working with Lisa at Niagara Falls, Frightmare in the Falls, and yeah, I got ideas of stuff I want to do in the future that I'm hoping I'm able to make come to fruition. And yeah, but I'm loving doing this, and I've done almost 100 interviews this year, and this is wonderful, And especially I appreciate Tommy Kovac for putting you on my radar. He spoke very highly of you.
He was wrong.
Oh, he was right.
Uh,
He was right. He was right.
I had a wonderful time, and you brought back some very happy days uh, from when I was younger.
Hmm.
And I encourage you to go to Toronto. How long have you been in New Brunswick?
My whole life, all my 51 years.
Okay, well, and you can always go back there, but go take a run at Toronto. You know, I'm told it's maybe, one of the most one of the great cosmopolitan cities in the world.
I love it.
I've been to Montreal, but I've never been to Toronto, and I hear it's fantastic.
Mhm.
And my friends in the league, my guy, there's a couple Blackhawks teams I was very close with when I was doing sports radio, and they all said the trip you got to make is Vancouver. They say Vancouver is the most beautiful place in the league. And I have a friend who's from there and grew up there and said it is. But now I hear the hot trip is Nashville. The hockey players all call it Nash Vegas. And now there's a team in Vegas. But go to Toronto, Greg. Who knows what awaits? There's probably more people in Toronto than New Brunswick.
Oh, I guarantee you there is.
Yeah. So not only don't just do it for yourself. Skittles will have a much better time in Toronto. Go,
Yeah.
go, man, go. There's no reason not to go. You can find a place that doesn't have a cat rule. You can find you can do it online. You don't have to leave where you're sitting right now. You can just do it online and find a place to stay. And if you know anybody in Toronto or anybody that one of your friends knows someone in Toronto, and they like know of a place that's coming up. I lived in a condo for a while that my friend who lived in the same building told me that these two guys were selling their condo, and we moved in and we signed the papers and moved in the day before their condo went on the market. It was great, so they didn't say, oh, we've got this other buyer. They just said, okay, you're basically giving us our asking price, and you can find something, Greg, and that you're meant to do something special in Toronto.
I love Toronto.
Go,
You would,
man, go and go to a hockey game. How do you live in Canada and not go to a hockey game? You have
well, I'll tell you
emotional
what,
issues. Yes.
if the hockey game, if the players are like Emma Stone, Margot Robbie, Anna Kendrick, Rebecca Ferguson, people like that, I'll go watch that hockey game.
Which hockey club is closest to you?
I don't know. I don't follow it.
You are a therapist's dream waiting to happen.
I don't know
You're
about
awesome,
that.
Greg. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Do you have any charities or a web page that you want to plug and promote on here before we close off?
Well, again, I had a liver transplant.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say is there's something in at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago called uh, Transplant Village, and you could donate $10 or $100 or whatever you want to donate, and that money goes to help people that are not fully insured that need to have a transplant, but they're stifled by the cost. No one should ever not get, as we speak, there's 100,000 people waiting to get a liver. 100,000. It's hard enough to get a liver. I waited my 8th try, I got one. And I was yellow. I mean, I looked like Homer Simpson. I was just, you ever turn something on at home and it's just like sputtering? You're like, oh, I better put a battery in there before it goes. That's where I was at.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my doctor gave me weeks to live, and it had been a few weeks, and I never thought for a second that I wasn't going to get a liver, but it was rough because I kept going down there, and they told me it was liver for me, and my liver was so bad, the liver regenerates. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. You can give someone half your liver, and within 6 months, your entire liver is back. It like fingernails or like hair. It just regenerates. And I think if more people knew that, more people would donate. And all you gotta do is just check the box on the back of your license. It's so easy to become a donor. And no one wants to think about their demise, but God forbid, it's going to be awful. It's always awful when someone passes, but the person, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but the person I got my liver from, they donated their liver, their heart, their eyes. I mean, become an organ donor. That's what I would ask people. And if you want to donate to Transplant Village at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, please do so. They have a website. And otherwise, just look for When Harry Met Rehab. You can Google it online now and see the wonderful reviews. I mean, they're crazy reviews. And we will be there October 7th is opening night off Broadway. I'm not allowed to mention the theater, but I can tell you it's centrally located and maybe the biggest off-Broadway theater there is. And very excited. It's supposed to be like a 3.5 month. I hope it's not a 3.5 day run. I hope it's 3.5 months and gets extended. And there's another show I think coming in. So I don't know. We'll worry about it then. But I'm very excited for it. It's like my baby. So it's like my babies. They grow up and they're kids and they talk back. This baby is just like ready to help. And Omicron shot it down, but here we are again. So keep your fingers crossed. And maybe I could try to get one of the big stars that'll be in the play to be on your podcast, sir.
I'll go for that.
But I would, if anybody asks, you're a Blackhawks fan, and they won 3 cups in the last decade. They're not great now, but they got this awesome rookie, Connor Bedard. And Connor Bedard is the deal, man. He's the real deal. And he's number 98. And so he just misses Gretzky's number. But did you know you can't be 99 in the NHL anymore? They retired that number for Wayne Gretzky. So, I mean, he's as close as you can get. He's 98. But Connor Bedard, who just turned 19, I believe, you should see him play. He's great. So if anybody asks you, you're a Blackhawks fan, and they have the coolest logo. They have I don't know. Look at this. Look at this logo.
There you go.
I mean, how cool is that? I mean, the Bruins have cool uniforms, but it's basically like a B with lines. The Canadians have awesome uniforms, and it's got classic red and blue, and it's got the Habs referenced on the uniform. But look at this. Maple Leafs have great uniforms, by the way. But that there is a logo, son. Maybe next time I'll sing the Blackhawks theme song for you.
There you go.
All right, Greg. I want you to take 2 Emma Stone movies and then start Googling places to live in Toronto.
I'll do that. I'll have to think about which 2 Emma Stone movies because I like most of them.
See the one where she's got her breast out, and then watch.
Oh, The Favorite?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Watch that one. What's the one where she's naked the whole time?
Oh, Poor Things, apparently. It's not in theaters until I think December 8th or something like that. I'll be there for that one.
Mr. Skin can confirm this for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think you could send him my way?
I can ask him, certainly. Let me call him. Call Skin. Call Mr. Skin. Calling Mr. Skin Mobile. Mr. Skin.
Oh, wow.
I'm shocked she's doing a movie where she's totally naked. We need to confirm this.
Well, she's gonna be up for, they're saying she may get her second Oscar for this movie, and
Hi, this is Jim McBride. Please leave me a message and I'll get back to you. Thanks.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may
Don't
hang
you feel
up.
dirty
What's
just
the
being
more-
on Skin's voicemail? Hi,
Yeah.
Skin. I'm doing Greg Gilbert's podcast up in Canada, and he just told me that Emma Stone, her new movie, she's totally naked for a ton of scenes. Can you confirm this for me, please, whenever you get a chance? Greg also wants to have you on. Who doesn't want to have you on?
It was called Python's Paradise.
Yeah, Python's Paradise, and that's Greg. Of course, we're not on FaceTime, so you can't see him. But please call me back to confirm Emma Stone.
I have his book.
And he's got the Skin Encyclopedia. Check it and see if it's the one where he references Harry and Spike at the beginning.
I'll have to do that. I got to dig through my book collection here, but yeah, if I had known, I would have had that out.
Mr. Skin should be on the top of your book collection, but it's easy to find. Just look for the one that's sticking to two other covers. All right, thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
I'm happy to do it.
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Hi, I'm Oprah Winfrey, and you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Sounds just like Oprah Winfrey.
I know. Didn't it feel like she was in the room with us?
There you go.
Yeah, I can change that. Hi, this is Pierre Trudeau, and you're listening to my favorite podcast in the world. It's Greg Gilbert's Python Paradise. Let's see, what else could I do? I could do hello, it's John Cleese from Monty Python. We wish we were as cool as the Python podcast, Greg Gilbert's podcast. You're listening to it now. And I could just do the not as popular, but hey, it's Harry Teinowitz. Been in a bunch of movies you liked that aren't in the theaters anymore, but my new play, When Harry Met Rehab, is coming off Broadway in October of 2024. Be there. Aloha. This is the Python podcast with the one and only Greg Gilbert.
Absolutely. Check out Harry Teinowitz and Up the Academy, and check out Risky Business celebrating its 40th anniversary. Wow.
Yeah, don't sneeze when you're watching Risky Business. You'll miss me.
Oh, I love Risky Business, And of course, check out the package as well. And join it.
And return to me.
Return to Me, that's right. Yes. Return to Me with David Duchovny. Yes, check out all these and go see When Harry Met Rehab.
I know you can get to New York. I know it's not that far from New Brunswick. Hope to see you there sometime between October and January next year. Okay, Greg?
Okay.
Meet Tommy Kovacs there.
There you go.
New York. Come on, dude. You can do podcasts while you're in New York. Think of how cool they'll be.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Let me know when you find a place in Toronto.
I'll do that.
All right. I appreciate it, Greg. Sorry I went on so long.
Oh, no worries. I love it.
Well, I look forward to watching your other podcast. I can't watch this one. I'll be, just like way too critical of myself. But you are very enjoyable, and I appreciate you letting me into your world.
I appreciate you allowing me the honor.
Okay, I have to get back to reality now, Greg.
All right. Well,
Okay,
God bless you, man.
Say
You
hi
have
to your
yourself
girlfriend, Emma, for me.
Yeah, I'll see her, I think, December 8th. I think we're set to meet
I
at
think
the
I'll see
local
her
theater.
December 8th. Yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing her too?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, no, not at all, Greg.
I'm
We're just
hoping a
friends.
lot of people. I'm hoping a lot of people see her, and I'm hoping a lot of people vote for her at the Oscars because I'd love to see her win her second Academy Award. I'd love to see that.
Is the first one for Help?
Nope, La La Land.
She's very good in that, but she's spectacular in Help, and she's terrific in Crazy Stupid Love.
Oh, I love Emma Stone. Oh man.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
You made that point quite clear. next time I see you, I want to see the shirt.
Actually, I can pull that out right here. You just give me a second.
Sure. Hi, just joining the Python podcast starring Greg Gilbert. Greg thinks he and Emma Stone have a relationship, even though he's never met her and she's married. But I asked him to see this Emma Stone shirt he was talking about, and oh my God, Emma Stone joins the podcast. Look, let's see the back. What's the back look like? Same thing? Oh, I thought it might be Emma's back, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
Where'd you
all
find that? Did you?
online.
I figured online, but I mean that's
I was looking for an Emma Stone T-shirt, and you
you
know,
found one.
I found one. Yeah, I watch Emma Stone in anything, so yeah, she's one cool gal. She's not just a pretty face.
Mine is upstairs, but I still have the T-shirt I wore all through high school of the Farrah Fawcett poster.
Ah, nice.
But it would take me a minute to go get it, and I know we've taken up a lot of time. So
Yeah,
a pleasure. Thanks for putting this shirt on for me.
absolutely.
So now you can tell your friends Emma Stone was on top of me today.
Yeah, she's cool.
All right, buddy. Thank you. I appreciated spending the month with you. I hope I didn't ramble on, but you
Oh,
take
this
care.
was wonderful. You take
Wonderful.
care. You, God bless you.
Go on. I
Yeah.
wish you only great things. Stay healthy, and tell your mom she did a great job of raising her kids.
Raises some questions, but yeah, you didn't grow up with me, so.
No, I missed out. Be good, Greg.
All right, take care, man.
Seacrest out.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.